Trump is going to look at Europe, including Britain, and say, right, this is in Europe. You go and put all the troops there that are necessary to maintain the peace. And then it will turn out we don't have enough of them. And then he'll be pretty angry because that we're not spending on defence what he thinks.
On Tuesdays, we have our leaders panel, and in the studio with us for the first time together, commemorating the last time they'll be doing it with asthma, of course, which is why they're here, is William Hague, the former Conservative leader. Morning, William.
Good morning.
And Kezia Dugdale, the former Scottish Labour leader. Morning, Kezia.
Good morning.
And have you never met in the flesh?
No.
No, we haven't. We feel we know each other. We feel like we're great friends. We've just been having
We've
a
had
good
a
chat.
hug.
Yeah, we've had a hug, and because we've been. But you brought us together over the last 4 years, and
You said it never happened.
I know.
very mournful about asthma leaving.
Oh, bless. And Kezia has come on the sleeper train.
Yes, I left my house at 9:30 last night to be
Oh
here
my
this morning.
God,
Made William feel very guilty about it because he was nearly late coming from 2 miles
Exactly.
away.
I flew on the Jubilee line, which can be like a sleeper train.
Imagine if William hadn't shown up.
I know.
That would have been hard. That would have been hard to forgive. I would have. thought.
Raging.
Yeah.
Now, listen, this morning we're going to talk about quite a few things. We're going to talk about the new world of that we live in, where AI seems to dominate in all facets of life.
Everybody's copying from each other. And where all of this is heading is think of AI like electricity. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be in everything.
We'll discuss claims that two-tier policing is an extreme right-wing narrative, according to a Home Office review calling for sweeping changes to the definition of extremism.
And we'll ask why we never hear these words mentioned in the world of football.
So I'm gay. I've struggled with feeling proud of being me.
Yeah, interesting story on the front of the Sun as the referee, David Coote, talking about his own experience, but it's making us the broader question about why that hasn't really seemed to shift that much in the last 10 years when it comes to gay players in football generally, and all sports, actually, when you look around male sports around the world. Keep your thoughts coming in. Loads of getting in touch today. 0333 003 2353 is the WhatsApp number. You can text us 87222, start your message with the word Times, or email us on studio@times.radio. So the US stock markets have been rocked by a new kid on the AI block, DeepSeek. It's a Chinese development. It's highly efficient. It's extremely cost effective. And it's absolutely startled the living hell out of Wall Street and the big tech bros that dominate Wall Street. William, it's a surprise, this, to many people. Maybe it shouldn't be so much of a surprise. They've basically done what OpenAI and ChatGPT have been doing themselves, but they've done it really cheap. And it's open source, so it's available to everybody.
Yes, this has really shocked people, as you say, across the AI industry, and it is a reminder how quickly things can move on this. But most of the people in the AI world think it's all going to move faster in the next few years than we might think, or the man or woman in the street might think. And that very soon, most of the jobs are going to be revolutionized in the next 18 months or 2 years. So they already think that, most of those AI people. But then this shows that suddenly you can make a leap forward because you could do it all a lot more cheaply. And basically, in the technical jargon, this is showing the power of really powerful algorithms rather than investing in masses of chips that sit in data centers. So that would transform the economics.
And it's maybe the case that the American AI world is so rich because they get all this investment and they make their money from social media platforms, some of them anyway, or other bits of tech. They've got so much money. They're spending a lot of money. And the question is, are they spending money because they need to spend the money, or are they just spending money because they have the money?
Well, that is right. That's why the market value of NVIDIA fell by about $500 billion yesterday, because the reason they have all that money is people are investing in, are giving them the money to invest in. And if it turns out that's not going to be a productive investment, well, then that money soon gets taken away. So this just underlines we're entering an extraordinarily exciting but pretty dangerous period in the world. And there's this huge race on. This is China doing something to overtake the United States. You can be sure the United States will now do everything possible to get back ahead of China. And the danger in that scenario is everybody's building a faster car without building any brakes. Yeah. It's Formula One. without any safety measures. That is, of course, a very worrying thing in the world. You can have speed and safety at the same time. In fact, it's essential to have the safety. That is now being neglected, I think.
In the theory, it is, whether in practice. Kessie, what do you make of it? Because I think Asma and I very much fly the flag for Ludditism on this programme. We don't go rushing off to ChatGPT. I've never actually done it. I've done it once for the programme, but I'm not interested in it. But I realise that AI permeates everything. So I do use Google, and Google has a lot of AI in it, and my phone is filled with it. I do recognise the point, but I don't want to. Are you excited, Kez? Are you sitting here thinking, great, this is all open source, this is moving faster and faster, and in fact, in 5 years' time, everything will be different, and that's a good thing? Or are you wanting to sort of live in lovely Fife and keep away from it all?
We still have AI in Fife. Let's just clarify that from the start. But yes, I am excited about this, on balance, just. And I think this story is actually really positive as well, because what it tells us is that the limitations we thought there were around the growth of AI, which were the demand for chips and the consumption of energy that AI involved, can both be curtailed. So this is a more efficient model, requires fewer chips and less energy. That's a disruptor within the disruption that this industry is causing. That's a good thing. But I'm with William when it comes to, do we really understand how to regulate, control, put tramlines around the side of this to understand it? And the thing that does worry me about this story is we've seen, hundreds of thousands of people in the United States in the past week download this app without any understanding really of what they're sharing with China and what that might mean for security in the future.
And it's open source, so what we were talking to Danny Fortson, and he said you can take the technology and use it without the Chinese levels of censorship, but you don't know what else you're taking, I suppose, is the problem.
Well, exactly, and none of us really do when we pick up our phone and use various apps. I don't think there's a person in the land that has read every single T&C, when they click accept and know fully what they're doing there, and that's the bit that we need to catch up with.
Asma doesn't click accept, I click accept all the time.
Or the cookies, I always reject cookies.
Yeah. We won't get regulation, though, William. I mean, when we talk to people who are sort of broadly tech positive, which I think you guys are, everyone says, oh, yeah, we've got to have speed and regulation. As if that's likely or possible, or the last 10 years haven't shown us the precise diametric opposite of that, which when you give power to people with high-powered tech that not everyone who fully understands, and they don't fully understand the algorithm or the speed or how that works, the lesson is not that we get speed and regulation. The lesson is we get screwed societally and royally by these people, to the detriment, largely speaking, of our well-being and the well-being of our children.
Well, I think the danger is we will get regulation, but we'll get it too late, and then it'll be very, very heavy-handed regulation, because the biggest danger here is that some of the most rapid adopters of technology all throughout history are organised crime gangs, terrorists. They are the first to work out how you use new technology. And when they do that with all this, particularly with it being open source, so you can adapt it for your own purposes, it will turn out that we've got such problems and such crimes are being committed that then you get a very heavy-handed response, and governments will have to look into everybody's telephone permanently. So that's the importance of regulating the safety of AI now, so that you're not forced into that terrible choice of anarchy or authoritarianism that is coming down the line. I think that, looking a few years ahead, that's the choice, anarchy or authoritarianism. I'm very sorry to sound a bit negative when we're having this, this happy reunion.
I'm going to choose anarchy. Would you look at this? Would you download this? Do you deep?
No, I wouldn't. No, because of what Kessie just said about the Chinese aspect of it. But of course, you won't know where all these things are. Products will be made with them in them, and your apps will interact with other apps that maybe from anywhere in the world. And again, this is the very important reason why you have to have regulation alongside rapid development.
Would you look at DeepSeek? Would you download it, Kessie?
No, I'm not going to, but I am increasingly using AI in my everyday life.
Do you go on ChatGPT and ask it questions?
I do, but I'm very careful with what I ask it, and I don't provide it with any personal information.
So what would you ask it, if you don't mind?
It's really good at summarising large articles. It's really good at, for example, taking text and asking it to change its tense or the style of writing. So you can say, can you turn this academic article into an 800-word blog? And then you can revise and edit from that, so you have a base of text.
So it's good for lazy.
That sounds good.
For lazy academics, it sounds good.
I don't know how you got from that.
I'm so sorry.
No, I don't know if you should call that lazy or efficient. Efficient.
Yeah,
It's called co-intelligence. Co-intelligence is the new word for that.
So professionally, it's good at it's labour saving.
Well, I'll give you another example where I do use it. Like, you can have Copilot now built into a lot of Microsoft applications. That's quite a handy tool to summarise a very long, boring chain of emails. I would encourage you to try that.
Did that work?
Oh, you're interested now. Look at you.
William, what do you use it for, if anything?
Yeah, well, similar, actually, to say that, because I like to read at the weekends all the articles and things I'm interested in that are not in the publications I normally read. So, not in the Times, for instance. And, this is a very good way of saying, well, here are the 40 articles you've missed in the... that you wouldn't have read, even something from The Guardian. But
the problem from a media point of view is that they won't get any money from that, will they? They won't get any clicks from that because you're seeing it in a different place, so there's no adverts surrounding it.
I don't know. I think some things you still would have to have a subscription to, but yeah, probably. It's finding the content one way or another. Some of it.
So that's another. Who's going to be paid for the content if the computer's just lifting it from everywhere? Asma, do you fit anything at all?
No, not at all.
No.
But
are we in a tiny minority now? Are we just sitting here not doing this?
Not for the first time. I think we are in a tiny minority. Yeah. A sober, unsociable, Luddite minority. There you go.
If anyone wants to join us in the gang, 0333232353.
Right, we're going to move on now and talk about this internal review, which has recommended 38 changes to the way the UK deals with extremism. However, the Home Office has rejected all the recommendations. So they asked for the report to be done. They obviously read the 38, and apparently they're not going to enact any of them. Now, the document cited extremist groups using the grooming gang scandal to promote anti-Muslim sentiment, as well as the phrase two-tier policing being a far right-wing narrative. It's quite a lot to unpack there. There was quite a lot of stuff that came out of this report, which is very interesting, but seems to have been dismissed. So claims of two-tier policing are an extreme right-wing narrative. There should be more of those non-crime hate incidents used. We need to stop looking at ideology and look, for example, instead at behaviour. And I think the one that's proved the most controversial, William, is definitely two-tier policing being a far right-wing narrative, because that may be true, that, the police deal differently with certain groups than they do with others. That may be true, and that may be something that that is espoused by the far right. However, there are many people who believe that and who text us in, and they're actually quite annoyed because they feel that they're being told that they are far right.
Yes, I can understand them being annoyed, because you can't label. We're not going to be able to say that half the country is extremist, because they're not, actually. Britain is still, thankfully, full of basically sensible people trying to reason properly about things. Equally, there is a problem, though, of far-right narratives on the internet. It does relate to what we were just talking about, actually, of the state increasingly has to make a choice of, do you just let things rip, or do you have some sort of excessive clampdown on people? We do have to reinvent how people speak freely, speak their minds, but also realise they have a duty to listen to other points of arguments. And social media really ought to be constructed that way, because otherwise people are going off down rabbit holes of, rather obsessive views. But the answer to that is not to clamp down on everybody's freedom of expression. So I do have a lot of sympathy with those complaining about this this labelling of people as extremist.
And one of those clampdowns would be presumably the non-crime hate incidents. And I know that people have differing views on this. Some people say, well, hang on a minute, if it's not a crime, why is kind of police time being used on this? And other people will say, well, actually, sometimes you need a kind of halfway house to deal with difficult views. What do you think, Kezia?
I can see why the police would be encouraged to do that, because what it allows them to do is to create systems that can track patterns of behaviour that fall short of a criminal act. And in the context of what we're talking about, that could be quite useful. Equally, though, I understand completely people's concerns about freedom of speech and the extent to which the police are involved in our lives. It's a fine balance. But when it comes to issues around, do we call two-tier policing far right or not, I hear it as a term used by people of the right full stop. So from Elon Musk to Chris Philp, from Suella Braverman Priti Patel have all used this term, Nigel Farage, and I'm less interested in trying to place those people on a political spectrum and more interested in trying to understand their motive for using that term. So is it because they're genuinely interested in improving the quality of the justice system and its efficacy in responding to this, or is it because they see an electoral benefit into hyping up tensions?
Could it be both, do you think?
Yes, of course it is, and let's be honest about that. And I also, I worry a bit about trying to define this something that happens only at the polar, political debate. This is the type of conversation that's happening in bars and pubs all of the time just now. People not sure they're using the right language and become obsessed with the language rather than actually talking about the core issue.
What do you make then of this? Well, William, I don't know. Maybe you know. Why is it common to commission a report about something that's very important, that gets done quite reasonably quickly? It comes up with 38 recommendations, and apparently then you say, well, we're not going to adopt any of them. Is that normal?
It's not that common to say we're not having any of them. Of course, all too often governments do just rather unthinkingly accept reports, say they're going to do it, and then, as on endless subjects we've discussed on this programme, never actually do it. Anyway, so it is actually better to be honest about it and say, well, no, we don't agree with this, we're not doing this. So it's unusual to say they disagree with the whole of it, but in line with the discussion, just I wouldn't agree with large parts of it. So, ministers have to think for themselves. Maybe this is a good sign that ministers are thinking for themselves.
Kezia, where do you think this leaves us, this report? Because, a lot of it echoes the discussion that we've been having since Axel Rudikabana's admission of guilt and then subsequent sentencing, which is that we need to stop, perhaps, or not just have a single track focus, which is there has to be an ideology at the heart of this, that we have to look at behaviour. Is that easily done, do you think? What is the behaviour that we're looking at?
It's not easily done, but also I think the Home Secretary was right to reject the one recommendation in the report, which was trying to advise her to dilute an existing system which was designed to address Islamist extremism for the purpose of all violent, dangerous behaviour. That strikes me as a common sense good thing for her to have done, is to go, no, I'm not going to dilute the system. She will need an alternative. So this isn't an easy solution. There's a lot more work to do.
Really nice messages on AI just from Mel. AI will hopefully level the playing field. I'm a lawyer. My husband is a firefighter. I have a son who's a soldier and another a very creative chef.
Goodness me.
My intelligence has been vastly over-rewarded financially, but the bravery and creativity of my family under-rewarded. AI will make my skills largely redundant and hopefully enhance the value placed on the rest of my family. A fairer place. That's an uncommonly...
How very generous. It's true, AI might be a levelling up instrument, to use that rather old phrase now. It could actually be an equalising force. That might be one of the great upsides.
Could be the end of lawyers, which could be another upside as well. Kezia and... I don't mean that. I do a little. Kezia and William, stay there. We still need to discuss Donald Trump and being gay in professional football. Kezia Dogan and William Hague are with us in the studio. What a treat it is being for us. Let's talk about Donald Trump. Why not? He's returned to the White House. He had a big role in securing peace, temporary peace, ceasefire, maybe, in the Middle East. Now he wants to end the war in Ukraine in 6 months, but that means allies of the US, including Britain, would have to step up in some pretty big ways. William has written his Times column about all this today. So do we just have to follow America blindly? William, come to you in a second, but Kezia, you've had a week of Donald Trump now, a little more than a week. What did you make of it as someone I suspect who would not be naturally aligned with some of his views? What have you made of his sort of first week in the world?
Well, I'm almost numbed by it in one sense because, how many hundreds of executive orders have we seen passed? So many of them are at quite the extreme end of the scale of what you think is appropriate for a government to do, and to do at the pace that it's done, that it's hard to absorb it, that quickly and to its full extent. I mean, what does the sum of the parts tell us? He means business. He's untrammeled. It's very hard to see what's going to get in his way. Anytime he's come up against confrontation in the last 7 days, he's won. I think that's probably all we know so far. And
he won in Colombia because he can bully Colombia. He can't bully William Putin very easily. He can't bully Netanyahu or Saudi Arabia or other countries in the Middle East.
Well, he has got leverage over all of those, yes. And I think one of the things that he will discover and where this could all go wrong is you can bully your friends, if you're in a very powerful position in any role in life. But a couple of years later, you do find you need your friends in some crisis. So I think there's that danger of overreach by America. He can put Russia under more pressure, which might be a good thing, of course, to be part of resolving the war in Ukraine, to be open to negotiations. He could put more sanctions on Russia, and he could give more support to Ukraine, which would increase the incentives on the Russians to come to a deal. But as I point out in the column you kindly mentioned, when it comes to a deal, Trump is going to look at Europe, including Britain, and say, right, this is in Europe. You go and put all the troops there that are necessary to maintain the peace. And then it will turn out we don't have enough of them. And then he'll be pretty angry because that we're not spending on defence what he thinks, and indeed what the Nato Secretary General and many observers would say we ought to be spending. Well, this, I think, will be a bit of a crunch for the Labour government, because I think they will have to find more money for defence and get up to at least 2.5%, and then one day 3% of GDP. And so that's going to be a real problem for them with Donald Trump. And on that, he has a point. Whereas on a lot of the things we've just discussed, he's behaving very rashly.
Just finally, before we leave this, we talk about the special relationship on this programme with a great deal of disdain and scepticism. It's not a special relationship, it strikes us from the outside. When you're in the Foreign Office, do you actually believe in it? Do you think, oh God, America really thinks about ours as much as we think about America?
Yeah, it does feel like without being misty-eyed about it, when I was Foreign Secretary, there was only one telephone on the desk which went straight through, which you could just pick up to your counterpart. And vice versa.
And that was America.
To the US Secretary of State. And sometimes it rang as well. No going through staff. There's only one country where you have that. There's only one country where the intelligence services are really sort of hardwired together in some ways, and where the militaries totally trust each other. So there is, at that state level, there is actually a special relationship.
There we go.
We're going to end by talking about football. This is because the former Premier League referee David Coote has told The Sun that he resorted to taking cocaine to relieve the pressure of being a gay man in the world of football. And we're very much taken by this story, excuse me, today, really. And it turned into a kind of whole debate about when we're going to have, this is a referee, and a referee felt that he couldn't come out, presumably because of the reaction that he would get from the fans and also online. So when might it happen that there might be a gay male player who comes out in the world of football, kind of top flight? And Kezia, this is something that there was a time when people were buzzing about this. They were waiting for it to happen. From a good point of view, they wanted it to happen, and they felt like it's this kind of barrier that we need to get through. And then everything kind of went quiet. And I wonder whether there's been enough of a change in the behaviour of fans for this not to be a horrendous experience for someone should they wish to come out. Now, we're talking about male players, obviously.
So first of all, I don't love the headline, I took coke because I'm gay. I think that needs quite a bit of unpacking and does the LGBT community a bit of disservice. Actually, this guy's got quite a lot of complicated things going on in a pattern of poor behaviour. So let's just put that out there. There is a bigger story than you've pointed to it, which is why is it so hard for footballers to be gay in the 21st century? And, I've mentioned on this programme before, I think right back in the early days, my dad was a referee and I got dragged to football matches when I was 5 years old and heard, was defined by the homophobic abuse you heard from the stands. 30 odd years later, and I go back to football matches occasionally, you still hear it.
Right.
I would say it's not as bad as it was, but you will hear those terms. And it's like the last bastion of culture in Britain that's so laddish. It's all about that machismo that it just seems to be the one place where it's acceptable to speak out of turn and use that language.
But I also think that it's such a huge ask of someone as well, because it would be almost better if this is just, a flight of fancy now, if it was a coordinated thing and 5 players decided, right, we're going to do it. We're going to do it together. We're going to take all the kind of pressure or the accolades or whatever together rather than it being one individual, because behaviour kind of in the football grounds itself may have changed a bit, but now we have social media. And we were talking yesterday about a referee who's had death threats. And I just wonder, I don't know whether, do you think that it will happen? Should it happen?
It's happened in other countries. Yeah. So when you look at soccer in Australia or soccer in the USA, you will find more out players and it not being an issue to the extent that it is in Britain. This is a particular problem in Britain with football, and it's pretty extreme.
Is that right, though? Because that's not a mainstream sport in those countries. The mainstream sports in Australia, the rugby league doesn't have it, rugby union doesn't have it. They have one person who's coming out. In American football, they don't have it. They don't have it in baseball or basketball. They don't have it in their mainstream macho sports. I
don't know if you can argue that it's not mainstream. It might not be the ultimate number one sport in those countries, but soccer in the States is huge now.
My point is that it's not the... I'm just interested that it doesn't happen across the board in American sports, which strikes me as not just a football problem.
Sure, I'm happy to accept it's not just a football problem, but I think there's a particularly acute problem in football.
William, what do you think?
It is a cultural, I'm sure it's the cultural problem that Kezia describes. It will change over time. It's, who knows how long it will take, but this wouldn't have been a problem in ancient Greece, for example. They invented the Olympic Games, and that really wouldn't have been an issue, I don't think, from what we know about civilization in ancient Greece. So we probably need more study of the classical world, I say, from an academic...
Always keeping it highbrow.
Yeah, an academic
That's what we like.
We're always doing that in the way end of child athletic, aren't they? We need to be more Greek.
That's exactly what we need to do. Well, listen, thank you both to both of you, to William Hague, but I've got to say, especially to Kezia Dugdale, who got on a train at 9:30 last night.
It's because we're going to miss you. You're so loved.
Don't stop. Listen, it's going to be amazing because next Tuesday, Kate McCann will be sitting here and it's going to be wonderful. And I just want to say thank you to both of you. I've just loved speaking to both of you. It's been great every Tuesday.
Well, thank you. Kate will be great, but it won't be the same. It won't be the same. That's why we're here.
William, thank you so much. William Hague and Kezia Dugdale, thank you.
It is the biggest treat of the week for us, you guys coming on. And in the studio, how lovely.